Terrorism supporting the junta military government in Myanmar, the complex role of Nscn, PLA, UNLF, and other armed groups. Introduction. The geopolitical conflict in Myanmar, particularly in the region of Sagaing, has become a multifaceted battleground. Armed insurgent groups from across Myanmar, as well as some foreign groups from India, are playing an active role in the conflict that is rooted in a long-standing struggle for democracy and autonomy. Among the foreign entities, the National Socialist Council of Nagalim Isak Muiva, Nscn, DANS, People's Liberation Army, PLA, and United National Liberation Front, UNLF, cause of Manipur, India, have been heavily involved in the conflict. These insurgent groups, despite claiming to represent the rights of their respective communities, have aligned themselves with Myanmar's military junta, also known as the Tatmadaw against the People's Defense Forces, PDF, a coalition of pro-democracy groups and ethnic armed organizations that aim to overthrow the military dictatorship. The purpose of this article is to explore the involvement of the Nscn, PLA, UNLF, and other groups in supporting the military junta's interests in Myanmar and to assess their impact on the local and regional balance of power. At the heart of the conflict is the struggle for Nagalim, a united homeland for the Nagas inside Myanmar, as well as the Kuki National Army, KNA, Kachin Independence Army, KIA, and other resistance groups fighting for Myanmar's democratic future. Background of the key armed groups involved: Nunchiwan Aine, Nscn, and their goals. The National Socialist Council of Nagalim, Isak Muiva, or Nscn, an insurgent group primarily based in India's Nagaland, has a long history of fighting for a sovereign Naga homeland, also known as Nagalim, which includes parts of both India and Myanmar. While the group's core aim remains the creation of a unified Naga state, their involvement in Myanmar's internal conflicts has sparked controversy. The Nscn has long been accused of supporting the Myanmar military junta in its efforts to suppress democratic movements and secure territorial control in the region. Their direct collaboration with the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military government, has sparked concerns within Myanmar's pro-democracy factions and has drawn criticism from groups such as the People's Defense Forces, PDF, Kachin Independence Army, KIA, and the Kuki National Army, KNA, who consider Nscn's actions as an affront to their struggle for democracy. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, and the United National Liberation Front, UNLF, are based in India's northeastern state of Manipur, near the Myanmar border. These groups, particularly the PLA, have been involved in insurgent activities in Manipur for decades. While the PLA's primary goal is the liberation of Manipur from Indian control, their involvement in Myanmar's affairs is aimed at furthering their own strategic interests. The PLA and UNLF's collaboration with the Myanmar military junta is largely driven by a desire to regain control of the Kabao Valley, an area located in Myanmar's Sagaing region, which historically has been a contested territory between India and Myanmar. This alignment with the Tatmadaw is a tactical one, as they seek to secure and expand their territorial and political goals by supporting the junta's efforts to suppress democratic resistance. Shan National Army, SNA, and the Myanmar military. The Mashan National Army, SNA, another ethnic armed group from Myanmar, has also played a key role in this conflict. The SNA, with its roughly 4,000 soldiers, has aligned itself with the military junta in the effort to suppress pro-democracy forces. This alliance between Myanmar's Shan rebels and the military junta adds another layer of complexity to the ongoing conflict, as the SNA seeks to protect the interests of the Shan ethnic group while simultaneously working with the junta to thwart the progress of the People's Defense Forces, PDF. The Myanmar conflict, the fight between democracy and military dictatorship. The core of the current conflict in Myanmar revolves around the struggle for democracy and the battle against the military junta. The Mi People's Defense Forces, PDF. A loose coalition of pro-democracy militias, ethnic armed organizations, and civilian resistance groups is fighting against the military's repression and human rights violations. These groups represent the aspirations of Myanmar's people for a democratic future, free from the military's authoritarian rule. The Kachin Independence Army, KIA, the Kuki National Army of Burma, KNAB, the Chin National Army, CNA, and the Chin National Front, CNF, are some of the most prominent armed groups working alongside the PDF. These groups are primarily made up of ethnic minorities in Myanmar, many of whom have faced discrimination and marginalization at the hands of the Myanmar military for decades. The KNAB, for example, is composed mostly of Kuki people who reside in Myanmar's Sagaing region. They have been fighting to protect their traditional lands and preserve the autonomy of their communities, which have been historically under threat from both the Myanmar military and foreign insurgent groups. The role of KNAB, KIA, CNA, and CNF, the Kuki National Army Burma, KNAB, a prominent member of the resistance, has faced repeated attacks from both Myanmar's military and the groups that support it, such as Nscn-IM. The KNAB's mission is to secure its ancestral lands in Sagaing, which have been subjected to incursions by military-backed insurgents. The Kachin Independence Army, KIA, which has a significant force of over 50,000 soldiers, and the Chin National Army, CNA, and Chin National Front, CNF, both of which have more than 40,000 soldiers combined, form the backbone of Myanmar's pro-democracy forces. These groups have been particularly focused on defending the northern regions of Myanmar, including Kachin and Chin states, from the incursions of groups allied with the junta. The KIA, with its substantial force, remains on standby to intervene whenever necessary. The KNAB, although numerically smaller, has bolstered its ranks, receiving reinforcements and support from allied groups such as the KIA, CNA, and CNF. Together, these groups are fiercely determined to prevent the Tatmadaw from consolidating control over their respective territories. Nscn and their collaboration with the junta military. The involvement of Nscn in Myanmar's political and military dynamics is particularly alarming. Nscn's ambitions for Nagalim, which stretches into Myanmar's Sagaing region, have brought them into direct conflict with groups like the KNAB, which are fighting to secure their land from both the Myanmar military and other insurgents, including Nscn-IM. Nscn-IM has long been accused of undermining Myanmar's democratic forces by collaborating with the Tatmadaw, specifically targeting groups like the People's Defense Forces, PDF, and their allies, including the KNAB. This has intensified the conflict in the region, particularly in areas like Taejang and Minhar Township, where large-scale battles have taken place in recent days. The Nscn-IM's direct support for the military junta in exchange for territorial gains in Myanmar has caused further division among ethnic armed groups. Their ambitions to secure a larger part of Western Myanmar are seen as a betrayal by pro-democracy forces, especially by the KNAB and their allies, who view this as an existential threat to their survival. The escalating conflict in Sagaing region. In the last 2 days, Sagaing region has witnessed relentless gun battles between pro-democracy forces and a coalition of Myanmar's military and foreign insurgent groups. Sagaing, traditionally considered the ancestral land of the Kuki people, has been a focal point in the battle for control over Myanmar's future. The conflict has seen air support from the Myanmar military directed against the KNAB and its allies. The junta's collaboration with groups like Nscn, PLA, and SNA has intensified the violence as these groups work together to suppress the People's Defense Forces, PDF, and gain control of Kuki territory. With the KNAB's official strength now bolstered to nearly 2,000 soldiers, the battle continues to intensify. Conclusion. The conflict in Myanmar is no longer just a fight between the military junta and the people. it has become a regional struggle, with various insurgent groups and ethnic militias participating, each with their own agendas and motivations. The role of foreign groups like Nscn, PLA, and Unlf has complicated the situation further, as these groups work alongside Myanmar's military to crush democratic resistance and secure their own territorial ambitions. The Kuki National Army Burma, KNAB, along with its allies like the Kachin Independence Army, KIA, Chin National Front, CNF, and others, continues to fight for the protection of their lands and the future of Myanmar's democracy. As the conflict in Sagaing region escalates, it is clear that the battle is far from over and Myanmar's future remains uncertain. Disclaimer. This article contains information from various public sources and video content not owned by Zalengam Media, used under the YouTube Fair Use Policy. All rights to video content belong to their respective creators and distributors. Please consider subscribing to Zalengam Media for more insightful updates.